Hello, Positive Readers. It's Positive Writer today with another video. And today I'm going to be telling you guys all about my favorite books of 2020. This year has been amazing for me, best year of my life, and I've consumed like the most media I've ever consumed in any year ever. So, that's one of my favorite things about the year. And I already released my other two favorites, which was movies and TV shows. You can go watch those on my channel. And now for the last but not least, for sure not least, books that I read this year that were my favorites. There are 12 on this list. I only read 42 books this year, but I shouldn't say only because I basically gave myself a challenge at the beginning of this year because I knew this was going to be a big year for me, whether or not coronavirus happened or not. Because I turned 18 this year. I graduated high school this year. There was supposed to be a lot of stuff going on. None of that stuff happened except for the graduating high school and the turning 18. But still, I needed that time, to deal with all this other stuff, to just not have the reading go at the end of the year, to have to be like, oh dang, I'm not reading enough. So I decided to give myself a break because I've been upping my reading goals by 25 books every time I read the amount of books I'm supposed to. So the first year was 50, and I read 50 books in 2018. 2019 it was 75, and I read 75 books. Now, it's going to be 100 next year, but right now, we had no goals, and I wanted to see how many I would read, and I read 42, which is almost 50, and I think I did a great job. Especially because of the amount of good books. There were like maybe 5 or 6 bad ones, and a couple subpars, but 42 books, and I loved basically all of them. I think that's amazing. So anyway, here you're going to hear about the best, the top 12 of the bunch. And so starting right off the back, the first book is number 12, which is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. This book is a memoir written by George M. Johnson about George M. Johnson's life. And he basically, he's just talking about growing up as a queer black boy and, his experiences and such. And he has different, different parts of his life that he talks about at different parts, at different, it's constructed very well for like a memoir. I really enjoyed it, and I have been on the hunt this year for LGBT black books because they are so hard to find. And I read some really good ones this year, and I'm really happy with the ones I read. Pet was another one that I read, and I love that one. Definitely read that book if you have not yet. But yeah, this was the one that made the list. And I love this, and I put it on the list because I love memoirs, period, because I love people, and I love to read about people's lives, especially when I can relate at some point. I think the black queer experience is not talked about at all or nearly enough. And I love that this book got so much appreciation and traction, and that I saw it and was like, this looks good, and then I decided to read it because it was magnificent. I loved it, and it was really nice. I'm pretty sure I cried at some point. It was really, really good, and basically the whole thing he was kind of do was, kind of tell his story, and if that story could help somebody else feel represented, that's what he wanted to do. And, just reading it, just reading that and knowing that his story, has touched many people's lives, and he just was good with one, really just makes it worth it and makes me love that book. I definitely recommend you read it. Please do. It's amazing. The next one on the list is number 11, which is The Boy by Tammy Hoag. This is one of my favorite books of the year. One of my longest books of the year. I think this was my longest book of the year because it's like 500 something pages. And a lot of the other books I read were really short because of time and stuff. So this book I thought was magnificent. For a 500-page thriller, it did not feel that long, and it also just felt jam-packed that it was like okay. This book is about a small town, and basically one night, this woman runs out of her house into the neighbor's house, and she's trying to find somebody to help her because her son's dead and somebody's coming after her with a knife. And, basically she doesn't know her son's dead until she gets to the hospital and they tell her. And then there's this full-scale investigation into, did she kill her son? Is she fronting the whole thing? Is she crazy? What's going on here? And they start just investigating the entire town. It's like in New Orleans somewhere. And I thought it was magnificent. It was amazing. I love my mom's son books. And it just had a lot of that in it, and I loved it. And the book also, suspense is a great thing that I love. I love thrillers. I love true crime. I love mysteries. And so I love a good whodunit. I want to find out. I thought the book was amazing. It was just great. I really enjoyed it. And to be 500 pages, again, it really kept my attention the whole time. And I loved it. I loved the ending. I loved the beginning. I loved the middle. It was great. And I love the characters. Great. It's a series about these detectives that are the main characters. It's like a married couple. I love them too. Great book. Definitely recommend it if you have not read it yet. The next one is number 10, which is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. This book I read back in 2014, I'm pretty sure. And it kind of just was like, okay, cool. And I never read Catching Fire and just forgot about it because I've never really been a Hunger Games fan. But this year I watched all 3 movies. And all 4 movies. And my sister read the book before this, and she was like, you gotta read them. And obviously, if you watch a movie and it's good and it's based off a book, you're gonna read the book. And so I read the book. And I haven't finished Catching Fire yet, but this book was magnificent, and I had to talk about it and put it on this list. Because The Hunger Games was just the blueprint, in more ways than one. It was the blueprint for, like, all YA dystopians, especially in the sense that this is the only one whose entire series has gotten made. Unless we're counting Divergent, which is like Legion Part 1 or whatever. But this was like the blueprint, and people love it. People appreciate it. People swear by it, and I see why now. It deserves every bit of hype, you know? I love it. It's just a great book. And not only that, it's a very unique book, too. When you think about the type of stuff that happened after the book, like the amount of stories that were kind of built off of this same type of vibe, it's just, like, endless, okay? And not only that, it feels original. You know, you go back and read the blueprint of all these other books, and this is the most original one. That's how you know it's just amazing. Like, the author, I don't know what was going, like, through her mind. She kind of just created this amazing world and then ran with it, and everyone else just kind of jumped on board, and nothing has been garbage about it since. I just love the characters. It's about the Hunger Games, which basically is this place called the Capitol, and Panem is this place they all live in. The Capitol is like the people who are very rich, and where President Snow lives, who is like the dictator. And so this girl named Katniss is kind of growing up in the worst district, the poorest district, District 12. And she basically volunteered her tribute to go to the Hunger Games, which is something that all people 17, I'm pretty sure, and under can go to. That she has to go. She's gonna volunteer for her sister to go in the Hunger Games because her name got pulled. And it's brutal. It's amazing. It's just the best book. Like, I really love it so much. And, you know what I'm saying, again, I love dystopians. And, you know, I've been kind of out of my dystopian mood for a minute. But this book just kind of brought me back. And this whole year's kind of brought me back. But this book is just a blueprint for all dystopians. The characters are so soft while also being hard. I love the uniqueness of Katniss. She's just such a hard protagonist. You really don't see that with, you know, protagonists, especially in YA novels. I wish I saw more of it. And she's just the blueprint for them. Peeta is the softest boy you've ever seen in your life. And again, something you don't see in a lot of guy characters in YA is a soft dude. And he's a soft dude. I just love their relationship. I love everybody. I love everybody. Great book. Read it. If you have not read it yet, it's definitely worth it. I don't care, like, you think it's overhyped. Read it. It's worth every bit of the hype that it has. Trust me. The next book is number 9, and this is Tampa by Alyssa Nutty. This I read earlier this year, and it was one of the books on my list of books that were getting me through quarantine. And this book was just a ride. Let me tell you, it was just like, I had to stop reading at several parts and just be like, is this like a real book? Like, am I really reading this? Did somebody really write this? It was like, I read a lot of stuff like that this year. And honestly, I'm at this point in my life where I don't want to really read anything unless it kind of pushes unless it kind of breaks a mold, unless it kind of makes you uncomfortable, unless it kind of makes you question things about yourself. And I read so many books like that this year. Not all of them made the list. I think like only like 3, maybe 2 made the list. But I really find joy and I really find myself inspired by books like this because that's the out there I want to be. I'm sick and tired of people acting like problematic authors are like the scum of the earth. You know, the problematic authors are like, you know what I'm saying, the blueprint. You know, like I was talking about the Hunger Games, that's not problematic. But people who kind of start conversations that were never started before, do things that haven't been done in books and literature, is like, you know what I'm saying, that's like a revolution. And you're mad because it's like something that's a little bit dodgy, but okay, you know, sometimes these things need to be said, and so I love books like this. And this book was the kind of first book that got the ball rolling. It wasn't, because at the beginning of the year I read like Flowers in the Attic and this other book. But still, this was like my favorite of all of these. And this book is about a woman who is basically a school teacher. She's about to be teaching 8th grade. And she basically is attracted to 8th grade 14-year-old, 13-year-old boy, because when she was a kid, she like had an encounter with one, and she just loved the power dynamic because she was like taller than him, because he hadn't puberty yet, and she was this, you know, she loved the power dynamic so much that she never moved past that. So yeah. And I love the book, honestly. Like, I can't say anything bad about it. It was just magnificent because, you know what I'm saying? Like, the main character, she's so brutal and disgusting, and you're kind of in her head, and you're just like, are you seriously thinking these things? But it's such a fun kind of read, I think. For me, it was fun because I like, and you know, it's entertaining. I like depraved, really dark things. I think I really, again, find myself inspired by these because, I don't know, like, who else is out there doing it like her? Nobody. And she kind of based it off an actual person who's an actual school teacher who did this and went to court and everything. And, you know, it really starts that conversation of, you know, women, ephebophiles, pedophiles, and, you know, women being abusers and stuff. And it kind of makes you think, you know what I'm saying, all this type of stuff that's never talked about in society as far as this type of stuff goes was talked about in this book. And I love it. I love how the author did it. Great book. Amazing. I want it for my library. It's a great book. amazing. The next one on this list is number 8, which is The Bold World by Jodi Patterson. This is another black memoir, black queer memoir, except the mom is not queer. Her son is, and her son is transgender, and I read this earlier this year, and basically it's just about her and her experience as a black woman growing up, and then eventually having a son who's trans and black. And, you know, like, you know what I'm saying, her accepting him and stuff, and how she now lives her life and lives and kind of raises her entire family based off all the stuff that she's been through. And I just think the book is just amazing. It's inspiring. It made me cry so many times, and it's just amazing. You know, it's a great representation of blackness and queerness at the same time, and kind of merging them and telling everybody that you don't have to be one or the other. Same thing that happened with All Boys Are Not Blue. These black queer memoirs are just magnificent. Okay, I need more of this. Anyway, yes, it completely was just amazing, and I just love the book so much. Again, to know that these people are real, that her family's real, that she's real. I follow her on Instagram. I saw her in a documentary, which was why I know about the book. And just knowing that this woman's walking around actually raising kids makes me very happy, because, you know what I'm saying, so many people are missing the mark. You know, I hear so many stories and see so many stuff about people just, you know what I'm saying, talking about how much their parents failed. Especially when it comes to like queer people, especially queer black people. But these just know that she's like a parent makes me really, really happy. And I think the book's great, and I think you should read it. It's very funny, it's very nice, it's very inspiring, and it kind of just makes me want to cry and live your best life and to appreciate the people around you, honestly. How you doing? I'm taping the video. You can come back and get them after I'm done, alright? I'm like, you want your ponies. I'll get you to them after you get done. Okay, the next one on the list is number 4. How did we get into the top 5 and I didn't? Oh, wait. I put this on here twice. Oh, my God. Okay. Well, I'm not sure if this was supposed to be number 5 or number 8. I put it on here twice because I thought I didn't have it, apparently. So I'm just going to say number 5 or 8. Honestly, it was so good that it probably deserved the number 5 spot. It did. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that was number 5 because it was amazing and I put it on here twice. So, whatever. The next book is number 7, and that is Playing Nice by J.P. Delaney. I love this book. This book I heard about because I used to watch a whole bunch of videos about thrillers in the beginning of the year when I was like wanting to read a lot and had more time. I was like wanted some thrillers to watch because thrillers are my favorite like genre in movies, books, anything. I love thrillers. So I was like, let's find some. And this girl made a video. I put her in one of my videos. I've talked about this book before. I think I made an entire book chat about this book, and so you can go watch that if you want. And it was one of my favorite thrillers of the year, and it was just magnificent. It's basically about this family, and this woman and man who are kind of not married, but they're together, named Pete and Maddie. And they just had a son, and he had a lot of problems and complications as far as the birth. But now he's like, okay, he's like 2 years old, and he's like, okay. And one day, this guy shows up on their doorstep saying that their son is his son, and him and his wife's son, and that they have their son. And they're like, huh? And then basically they start to kind of, they're like, okay, if this is the truth, since, you know what I'm saying, who would say this if it was a lie? They try to like co-parent both kids, and a whole bunch of clownery starts popping off. Trust me, I don't want to say anything else. I just think you should read it because it's magnificent. It's scary. It's like terrifying. And I've never read like a baby swap type story, so I thought it was just the most unique thing in the world. And not only unique, it was uniquely written and stuff too, because I was like terrified, okay? I was scared. I like had to stop reading because I was getting anxiety about the characters, for the characters. It's just a magnificent book. I think it was like one of the best books I've ever read in my life. Read it if you have not yet. Like, if that did not sell you, I don't know what did. Because that's all I knew about it when I went into it. And it just blew my mind. Amazing book. Read it if you have not yet. The next book is number 6. And that is The Missing by C.L. Taylor. I love this book so much. I can't even talk. Like, I love this book a lot. Again, another mother-son book. I love this book. Like, this book kind of just made me really, really happy. And also sad. And also, it was just a great thriller. So it made me like, what's gonna happen? On the edge of my seat. I love these books. I had a great time. This book is about a mother who, her son has gone missing. Mom is blaming herself. She's like, oh my God, it's my fault, you know. And everybody else actually is blaming themselves. Everybody in the family is so used to keeping secrets that 6 months after the boy disappears, they try to find some more information and things really go wrong. And so basically the truth starts coming out. And the mom is like sure that Billy is alive too. She starts being sure that he's alive. And so she goes on a hunt for him. And I think the book was just magnificent. I love me a domestic thriller, okay? Anything, especially if it's like a mom and son, only if it's like a mom and son. I probably won't read or consume any domestic thrillers that aren't about mom and son. But anyway, I just love me, my family thrillers. Okay, neighborhood, you know what I'm saying? Let's investigate our town. I just love anything like this. And so I really liked this. And the mother was like one of those unreliable narrators, which I adore too. If it's done right, I love it. And so, you know, it was just so nice, and you really felt for her, and you really felt her drive to find Billy, and you know what I'm saying, her going through different things. Like, you wanted to uncover things, and this book kept you guessing. Like, you never knew what was going on until like the very end, and then you kind of still didn't know. I love this book, and I thought it was amazing. It's so underrated. I never hear about these books that are on this list. Most of these are like so unknown, so please read them if you have not. The next book on the list, we're now on number 5, and so The Bold World was number 5, and so I can't really talk about that one again. Definitely could, but like, read that if you have not yet. So technically that was like number 5, and I'm a little bit off now, but like, it's okay, it's alright. So I guess we're on number 4 now, so I guess The Missing would be, well, The Bold World is number 4 is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. And this book I read with a book club that I was a part of, that I'm still kind of a part of, Unfriendly Black Hotties. And we did like a live show about it, and I'm so happy that they picked this book for the first one, because initially I was so upset, because first off, I was doing a lot this year, and so I kind of got the alert that we were going to be reading this very late, so I had to like rip together and read it really fast. And it didn't sound appealing to me. I'd heard about it, and I was like, okay, who cares? You know, it was about like, it's about 2 twins. They're both girls, and one of them is like white passing, and the other one is like dark skin. And so, well, the other one isn't dark skin. They're like both very light, but one of them decides to kind of be white passing, to just kind of go and live her life as white. And the other one, she stays home and kind of does her stuff, but she you know, lives her life or whatever. But basically the book gets started because she kind of comes back home, and it's a whole bunch of craziness because she's leaving an abusive husband and stuff. And the sister who's white passing, she's like, we don't know anything about her until like later on in the novel. So it's basically about like the one who kind of stays. And she has like a daughter who's very, very dark because she gets with a guy that's really dark. And honestly, I'm saying all this because the book really doesn't have a plot. It's kind of like it's a literary fiction novel. So it's like a whole bunch of people's lives in however many pages it is. And I love how it was done, because you kind of get to see a little bit or a lot from like every single person. And you know, it kind of just goes back and forth between different time periods, different characters. The daughter like grows up, her daughter grows up, the main character, and then you kind of see her life and other people's lives that have anything to do with them. I love books like this. Any winding people storylines, I just kind of adore, because people make me actually really happy, and not only like really happy, I'm just very interested in other people, and so I love reading stuff like this. And of course, this is gonna be my favorite books on the list. I love it. Like, there's a black trans guy in here. Where have you ever seen this? Like, I just really love this book. It's like magnificent, one of a kind. I love the cover. I just really enjoyed myself. Thought it was magnificent, and talked about so many things that need to be talked about more in the black community and just in society in general. Magnificent. Definitely think you should read it. Also, the fact that they're both kind of light skinned, because they grew up in a mulatto town or whatever, a town that kind of is priding themselves on being light skinned and more or superior to the dark skinned race. So that's basically what this whole book is kind of about, them, like the twins, and how that town kind of affects them and their children and stuff. So definitely read it if you have not read it yet. I definitely think you should read it. It was magnificent. It was my favorite books of the year. Obviously it's number 4, so it's almost on the top 3. Definitely read it if you have not yet. Number 3 is Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. This book is one of my favorite books of the year. As you see, it's number 3. I love this book so much. I was so anticipating this book like since I first saw it. The cover of it like last year, because I just knew it was gonna be revolutionary. Okay, there's like a guy, the black trans guy on the front with like top surgery scars out, like you can see them. I just was like, okay, I'm sold, you know. And basically it's kind of about it's another kind of literary fiction novel apparently, but again it has a plot, because it starts off the conflict with Felix is just living his life, and one day he walks into school. He kind of goes to this art school because he's a painter, and he kind of walks into school one day, and his old Instagram photos that were pre-transition are all over the place. Like, they're like blown up to big proportions on the walls, and he thought he archived these. You know, it's like, what's going on? Like, everybody in the school has seen them, and so he's gonna figure out who did this. And he kind of thinks it's this guy that he hates or whatever, that hates him, and they kind of hate each other or whatever. And so he thinks it's him, and he's kind of gonna like scam him into like revealing it or whatever. And that's kind of what it is. And so I thought this was gonna be the novel, and I kind of wasn't even interested when I kind of heard the plot. But then I read the book, and it was so much more than that. I just kind of love this book because it kind of captures my entire mood this whole year. and the things that are really important about this year and that it taught me were important. Because it's a coming of age novel, and it kind of shows him, while also dealing with this horrible instance that happened, trying to live his life and figure out what he wants to do with it, because he's like a senior, and so he's like, okay, I'm saying, what am I going to do after school? You know, we just kind of see him living his life and doing different things, and it kind of starts those questions of, you know, what's my purpose, things like this, which this year had an abundance of. There's like a literal quote in this novel where he's kind of just thinking about how nice would it be to just not care about anything and just take a gap year out after high school and just chill out. Because I was thinking about doing this, and reading that line was like, wow, you know, I know I'm not the only one thinking this, and to kind of have it spelled out for me, magnificent. I loved it. I thought it was great. It was just amazing. Again, this great representation of blackness and queerness at the same time. And I just think it's amazing. You know, I just thought it was great, and I really enjoyed myself, and it's one of the best, probably the best trans novel that's like about a trans person I've ever read. Because so many trans novels missed the mark, and God knows they did this year. But I just, you know, I really love that I found these gems that were just magnificent, and that I loved, and that represented trans people in the best light possible, and just, you know what I'm saying, were good representation. It's so hard to find good representation. Anywho, now we're down to the last 2 books of the year, my top 2. Okay, the first one, which is number 2, which doesn't make any sense, but number 2 on the list is The Sun by Gina Barry-Alt. This book is like the shortest book I read this year, I'm pretty sure. And this book was just magnificent. I found this book looking for mother and son books. Again, no surprise there. I was on Barnes & Noble. I found like a backwoods list or something because it's so hard to find them. No one cares about these except for me. But anyway, I found it. And so I read the title. I'm like, how have I never heard about this before? Because it's about a woman who is kind of, it's set in the 40s, first off. It has the biggest vintage vibes you've ever seen in your life. And it's basically about this woman who, she's like never satisfied, you know, like she's had so many men in her life that kind of come and go or whatever. And, you know, she always finds herself kind of looking to them for acceptance and looking to them for validation and things like this. And the only constant in her turbulent life, and turbulent and pretty melancholy life, is her son. And we kind of, you know what I'm saying, see him grow up over the course of the novel or whatever, and see the relationship evolve. And I thought it was magnificent. Great novel. I love it. It's so underrated. Like, this is like the most underrated book on this list. When I tell you, I've not heard anybody and their mama ever talk about this book ever. You know? Like, I don't know how many reviews it has. But, you know, it's like ridiculous. The author's dead, and I really was sad when I heard about that. But she's like, you know what I'm saying, this is a very old book. And so I'm not surprised. But it's still saddening. Because the book is magnificent. I'd like to thank her for writing such a great novel. Because the book is kind of, it starts all these conversations about, like, about motherhood, about womanhood, about so many things that I never really think about. Like motherhood I do think about because I love mother and son, so I love to read books about moms. But anyway, you know, some of these conversations are never started by anybody else. And to be such a short novel, and about something kind of so simple to think about, it was just kind of just magnificent. And again, the stuff that they said in this book about mothers and stuff like this kind of just was like, wow, you know, you never really think about it. Definitely think you should read it, just for the sake of reading it. It's a good book, and it's really short too. It's just amazing. Read it if you haven't yet. You know what I'm saying? I am the first person probably ever on YouTube to ever talk about this book, and I just think it's magnificent. I think you should read it, so you should listen to me. And now, here we go with the top #1 spot. This is one of my favorite books in the world now. Favorite movie of the year. And I had to read the book afterwards, obviously, because magnificent. And this book is Loverboy by Victoria Riddell. I love this book so much. The movie was magnificent, and I cried, and it was just the best thing I've ever seen in my life. One of my favorite movies of the entire year. And then I read the book, and no surprise that the book is now my favorite book of the year. This book is just, this whole story, like this story, the movie, the book, this entire world, these characters, have the biggest impact on me personally. And I think about them so much, and I love them. And so basically, this book is about a woman who, when she was like a kid, her parents were so in love that they kind of just neglected her. Like, they wanted her to, like, be her best or whatever. But very, like, from a distance. You know, they were always kind of seen together, and they loved each other so much, like they just were, you know what I'm saying, looking at each other constantly. They're just absorbed with each other. They're obsessed with each other because they loved each other that much. But, you know, then they had a kid, and the kid's feeling, like, neglected. And so she would, like, do things to kind of get attention and things like that. She never really felt appreciated or loved or anything. And so now she's, like, a grown woman, and she's, like, obsessed with having a kid. Like, she wants a kid so bad. And she wants, like, she's gonna have, like, the best kid ever. And then she has a son, and she just gives him all the love you've ever seen in your entire life, and then some. Like, I've never seen somebody that was more loved than this woman's son in this book, okay? Like, this book is painted as like, I've seen people say different things, like, as far as, like, a review of the book or, like, a blurb, as, like, some people shouldn't be mothers, or something like this, and I don't know, that's, like, offensive to me, because I think that's, like, a lie, first off, not a lie in the sense that some people shouldn't be moms, because that's obviously not true. Some people definitely should never become parents, but this book, as being a representation of that, I don't think so, because, you know what I'm saying? She kind of was trying to break the mold and the cycle of not having any love in her childhood, and so she gave all the love to her son. You know? What more can you do? Obviously, she did a lot more than you should do as a parent, I guess. She sort of, you know what I'm saying, went the extra mile in some ways that she maybe shouldn't have. And but she basically was just obsessed with, making sure he was exceptional. You know, not in a do the best you can way. But she just always encouraged imagination. She always encouraged freedom and childness and innocence and just maintaining all those things. Because the boy's like 4 years old in this, okay? It's not like he's like growing up. You know, he is. But like he's like a child in this moment. And so she really is interested in cultivating that. And obviously she wants to keep him close and kind of keep him as her baby or whatever. But, you know, I just see this as something that's like something that nobody ever kind of thinks about or talks about, because I always see the opposite of like an emotionally neglectful, an emotionally abusive, emotionally unstable, emotionally unavailable mom. But I never see the opposite. I never see a loving, completely just, I love you so much and I'm not going to let anything happen to you and I just love you and I just want you with me all the time. You know? Like you kind of see that, but it's never as pure as this. I just think that this book is just one of a kind. Like I could read this right now and I would love it just as much, probably more. I love this book. I cried so many times. The book, the movie made me cry. I love this story so much. And again, it starts these conversations of, you know, what is a good parent? And you know what I'm saying? Obviously, I don't know, keep your child too close that they can't grow on their own. But I think that there's no harm in wanting your child to kind of just be, you know what I'm saying, individual, but also like always know that the world's open for them. Be imaginative, you know, be free. Things like this, be different, you know. You just not encouraged in kids. I mean, in parents. And the boy's decidedly normal, unfortunately. So, it's like, it doesn't work. So, it's kind of sad. It's very sad. But it's just the most beautifully sad thing ever. And I love it. Like, honestly, like, it's so like a tier with, like, Bates Motel. It's very close to that as far as my heart goes. Because, you know, these type of stories that are kind of just this depiction of something that most people don't think is good. But I think really starts conversations that should be had. Again, these conversations. I was just a revolutionary this year. My reads had to be revolutionary or bust. But anyway, I love some books this year, and I hope you enjoyed me talking about them. I hope you love some book too, and I hope you also have some that you would like to tell me about in the comments, because I love to hear them. But anyway, I hope you had a great year. I hope you enjoyed your reads and your watches and all of this. My last video of the year. I see you guys in the new year. 2021 is going to be amazing. Can't wait to see you guys. My next video. A lot of stuff coming. You have no idea. I'll see you guys later.